I bet the song gets on your nerves. 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 Come on. Where are you? I bet the song gets on your nerves. This gets a bit embarrassing now.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Simon. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I had a cinnamon and raisin bagel for breakfast.
Was that homemade?
Of course.
Wow.
What kind of a monster do you think I am?
Do you do the bagels, do you boil them?
It's the only way to make a bagel.
I know.
Otherwise, it's just a strange
Kind of
round bread roll.
bread roll with a hole in it.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the outcome?
I've been making a lot of bagels recently. I feel like I'm at semi-pro level.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm very happy.
We could go into business together.
What are you selling?
Well, this week on Monday morning when Gloria and Lil's, this is the continuing saga of when it's closed.
Oh, it's closed on a Monday.
Yeah.
Awkward.
And so I sort of stopped outside the door and they're in there, doing prep for the week. And I pointed at this thing I was holding. I pointed at them. They said, come in. And so we're having a chat. I said, I've made you something. And I said, it's a little bold. And I'd made them some bread.
Ah.
And they cut into it and they said, can you make 40 a week? And I did the maths that it would end up I would be baking bread for 8 hours a day just to make 8 loaves a day.
Yeah, this is where a commercial oven would kick in usefully, wouldn't it? But I'm not sure you could. Would you get your deposit back on your flat if you installed a commercial oven?
Well, I've got a garage. I could stick it in the garage. No one would ever know, I'm sure. Don't know where the steam would go out, but... This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing. We should probably address the elephant in the room, shouldn't we?
We should. How do you feel about it, this elephant?
Okay, so... Dear listeners, we are recording this on the Saturday, the 10th of September.
And 2 days after
the death of Queen Elizabeth II, which brings to the end the second Elizabethan era.
And the longest ever reign by a monarch in the UK, in the United Kingdom, right?
Yeah.
After Victoria.
Before. As in, what do you mean? After
Sorry,
Victoria?
before.
Victoria,
Yeah, sorry, Victoria.
Yeah. She outstrips Victoria.
4 years, was it? 6 years?
I think so. Yeah, a couple of years ago, she pipped her at the post.
Yeah, she sure did. And then so Liz Truss tipped her over, didn't she?
48 hours after the installation of Liz Truss, who was the presumptive. I like to think of all of the prime ministers of this country as just a performance project.
Yes, it's so
a long,
true.
Long form
and
performance
where everyone comes in and goes, oh, I could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's totally shit. I could do that. What do you mean they've just left a big turd on the floor? That's not art. I could do that.
Exactly.
I do that every day.
If you think about Boris Johnson as a piece by Andrei Lepecki, it's kind of like, it's much clearer.
Yeah, totally.
Wow, why hadn't we? If we'd have thought of that sooner, I think we would have had a lot less grief in our lives.
Yeah, no,
it's just an art project.
They're just performance artists, yeah.
It's just performance art.
Yeah, just wildly successful performance artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 48 hours after the installation of the presumptive replacement for Boris Johnson, who became the actual replacement for Boris Johnson.
Her name is
Queen
Liz
Elizabeth
Truss, for those of you, for our international listeners.
Born in 1975, which made me go, oh, I am now older than a Prime Minister. That's the first time that's happened to me.
Oh, well, because Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand's about 20-0, so that horse bolted a long time ago for me. Yeah.
And to our Finnish listeners, we know that you've just got the coolest, youngest, grooviest Prime Minister
yes.
on the planet.
But how dare she go out and have fun?
Oh, it's so ridiculous, isn't it?
Oh, it is ridiculous.
It's like you can't win. Theresa May got laughed at for not being able to dance and thinking that the most radical thing she'd ever done was running through a field of corn.
She got scorned for that, didn't she?
I know, and yet this woman in Finland is being scorned for having a good time. It's like, what do you want? What do you want from people?
But have you seen that footage of Boris Johnson dancing at his wedding? Have we talked about this?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it.
I'm going to put it in the show notes just for people, because if you haven't seen it, dear listeners, and this makes the cut, you should watch it, because it's truly shocking. It's truly shocking, because I mean, I know we're joking about him being a performance installation, but I mean, I've got a little dancing under my belt, but really, it's very, very odd. It's the strangest, oddest. Anyway, I'm not going to try and describe it.
Are you saying he's no Mads Mikkelsen?
He's no Mads Mikkelsen. I mean, I would vote for Mads Mikkelsen. Definitely. He is a good-looking man. I think I've got a little bit of a crush on Mads Mikkelsen.
So is he tipping you towards a 3?
Oh, without a doubt.
Kinsey.
Oh, I know. I knew exactly what you're talking about, yeah. No, I was just thinking he hadn't gone far enough. 2.5, 2.3, I don't know.
I think you're going in the wrong direction.
Oh, am I?
You want like I think you want a 4 or a 5, or maybe a full-on 6.
Oh, is it 1 to 6? Is it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I can never remember. Thank you for.
That's okay. I can't really remember either.
Yeah, no, Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, hot baby, hot.
Super hot. Okay. Better looking than his older brother, who is a bit more stern.
I didn't know he had an older brother. Also an actor.
I want to say his brother's called. Yeah, I think he's called Lars.
Mads, Lars.
So. Yeah, I mean, what a shocker that he would have a similarly Scandi name. I'm pretty sure it's Lars Mikkelsen. I might be wrong, but he's got an older brother who's also an actor. So we're recording on the Saturday after the death of Queen Elizabeth II, and on the same day as the installation. That's the word I should be using. Do I mean? Or coronation? Maybe it's the coronation is the big formal ceremony.
A session,
later
session, isn't it?
A session, is that the word? Yeah, probably is. Of King Charles
III.
And that's the bit that's the weird thing for me to get my head around.
The fact that it's
King Charles III.
Why? Because he's the third, or because he's now become king?
No, because the word king doesn't sit. It feels medieval. It just feels like a really.
But also because of the name Charles as well. I think of I'm sure that didn't King Charles kill his 2 children or something? Like I don't know any of that history, but like it does make me feel like it, as you say, a little bit like from an.
Charles I got his head cut off by Oliver Cromwell.
There you go.
Charles II came to the throne, and that is the beginning of the Restoration period, where everything gets very long-wigged.
It's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago, and we move from that very austere Puritan period to something much more foppish, and you get a form of theatre called Restoration theatre. So there's lots of Restoration comedies that are really bawdy.
Really? Maybe they'll come back in.
Me and Bob almost met when we were 17 because of William Wycherley's The Country Wife.
Yeah, I know the words you're saying, but
we were both studying the same play. And we both went to see the same show
at the same time,
which was at the same time, and it was only on for one night. So we know we were in the same building at the same time because it was.
You might have seen her.
Yeah, probably. Well, the venue, the Duke's Theatre in Lancaster, is a very, very small venue. It's maybe 120.
And were you single at the time?
I was 17.
Were you single at the time?
Single? Yeah, that's a good question. If I was in the first year of my A-levels, yes. Second year of my A-levels, no. So no, I wasn't.
You had a girlfriend in the second year of your A-levels.
I had a girlfriend called Rachel.
Ah, hi, Rachel.
Pretty sure she's not listening.
He was so King Charles III. It is very strange, and also because in this country there aren't that many people alive when there was someone else was the king or queen. When there was another sovereign.
Yeah. I mean, I think of my parents as like muito velho, and they will just kind of remember. They would have been about 8 or 9, so they remember the coronation, but it's not like they remember being. Yeah.
So they've got to change all the money now. They've got to change all the money in New Zealand, Australia. I mean, that's very odd. I do find that really, really odd. It's funny that you say about almost meeting Bob, because I assume I've told you about how Lil and I met before we met.
No.
I was just a young dancer training the dance school, and I got a job life modelling, and for some art classes at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, their fine art course, and I was standing there in my I wasn't fully nude because they wanted a dancer, and they wanted it to be about the kind of shapes of dance, you might say. And so I was wearing some very skimpy tights, and some months after Lil and I started dating, she brought round a series of drawings that she had made, and so she was in one of the classes that I stood for.
Oh my Lord!
Dance for.
I had never heard that.
And so it was very funny because I swear she drew me with really much bigger thighs, and she goes, I draw them as I saw them. I drew them as I saw them, or something like that. But we did these, I did these kind of quick ones where I would just be in a posture for 15 or 30 seconds, and then have to draw something quickly. Then I'd move and they'd draw, and then other obviously longer ones. But yeah, she had this quite large collections of drawings of me. And so after we'd figured out that I'd been this model for her in one of her classes.
Wow, that is a meet cute of the ages,
isn't it? And I think she might still have one of those drawings, or kept one or two of them, which I would put in the show notes. But fuck is all. So yes, but how do you feel? I mean, other than the sort of strangeness of the king, like do you because I don't for a second think that you're any kind of royalist or monarchist, or whatever the word is.
I'm a confusarian. I think so I've been thinking about this because my mum thinks I'm a Republican because I will say things that are quite critical of the royal family and the privilege that has been bestowed upon them, their attitudes, the sheltering of Prince Andrew.
Well, I was going to say it's hard to say bad things about Prince Andrew, but other than that,
there are just so many things that do not sit well with my ideology. But I also recognise that I don't know. It's.
Do you think the country's better off? Do you think the world is better off, or the country and the world is better off for having a monarchy, for the UK being a monarchy?
No, I don't. Oh, no, I don't think so. But I think the problem that I have is the alternatives don't fill me with joy either.
Don't spark joy.
Yeah, so I kind of go. It's not that this is the best of a bad bunch. I think it's it's an even playing field of truly vile options. I just did you see the thing with Jeff Bezos this week?
No, but I think you pay a lot more attention to Jeff Bezos than I do.
It wasn't really Jeff Bezos that was the issue. It was.
Is it something to do with Rings of Power? Because I've been keeping an eye on that.
No, it was to do with an academic who was working at the Carnegie Mellon University.
Mm-hmm.
And the academic...
Great name, though.
Hang about, I'm just having a quick look. Yeah. So she's called Uju Anya. And she's an associate professor of second language acquisition at Carnegie Mellon University. Mm-hmm. And she wrote a tweet on Thursday, "May her pain be excruciating," in reference to Queen Elizabeth II.
Wow!
At that point, ill health. That was what had been articulated. To which Jeff Bezos responded, "This is someone supposedly making the world better. I don't think so. Wow." So then there's a back and forth that is unsurprisingly sparked about that, which is, I don't think you're in a position, Bezos, to be talking about making the world better when you are, you have people in such difficult work circumstances and you are benefiting to the tune of billions. And I think that there's
also choosing Twitter to announce it as well. Like it's basically trolling, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and here is my conflictedness. You know,
I mean, I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree. It's trolling.
Yeah, I guess so. I think
she knew that she
perhaps,
would get that reaction.
Of course. And you know, that's the thing about making a political statement in that way. You want to get a reaction. You want to open up a dialogue, don't you?
Well, not a dialogue. No, you're not opening up a dialogue.
Okay. No, you're right. You're right. You want, yeah.
I don't think trolls want dialogue. I mean, you know, just to be clear.
I don't think I understand Twitter particularly well because I'm not on it.
Well, and I haven't been on it since it got. So, yeah, same here.
But I think that exchange and all of the bits that sort of surround it capture my conflicted place that I occupy, which is that this is a woman who stands for something that makes me feel very, very anxious, being defended by a man who stands for something that makes me feel very, very anxious.
Being attacked by someone who probably you are more in alignment
doing something
with.
But articulating in such a way that makes me feel very, very anxious. So,
you've had a hard... that one tweet's given you a very hard week, hasn't it?
Well, I mean, I was also thinking a bit about... I think it's Kierkegaard who talks about the path that we follow, being pulled in a direction and sort of being pulled towards the gravity of the mob. He doesn't write about it in quite this way. He's Kierkegaard. He does it in a much better way than that. But somebody at work also said something interesting to me about the consent of grief and him feeling that he needed to consent to being in a grieving process. He didn't like being told that he was grieving in the way that media outlets right now are saying, we are a country in mourning. And he said, am I? Am I a country in mourning? I don't feel like I am. I feel like I've got things to do. And, you know, and it's that complicated narrative of what I'm supposed to be feeling based upon the narratives that the media are giving me, that this is solemn. And I've had Radio 4 on quite a lot, much more than I usually would have. And it has been wall-to-wall stories about the Queen.
That's planned though, and of course that's
I know, but there's no respite, there's no interruption, there's no bit that says 5 people died in a boating accident off the shores of New Zealand when they collided with a whale. I mean, that for me feels newsworthy. 5 people lost their lives because a whale bumped into them.
Yeah, terrible accident, a horrible accident,
horrifying. Yeah, and.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel a little bit. I mean, I remember the slightly weird experience of being in the United States when 9/11 happened, and I just left New York. I was in Philadelphia, and I did. I mean, it's slightly different, but I had that slight feeling like I should feel the things the people around me were feeling, but not being able to feel those things. Recognizing the enormity of it, but not I didn't have a relationship to the dance scene in New York and the people of New York the way in which most of the people around me did, for example. And so I made one slip of the tongue, which you will be appalled at. And that was when they got the entire. I was at the university, Temple University, and they got the entire sort of department, the dance department there or whatever it was, together. And this was still when there was a plane in the air that they knew was missing. This is the plane that ended up crashing in Pennsylvania. Yeah. So the same state I was in. So there was still a tremendous amount of uncertainty. And one of the lecturers said, this will change everything. What did I say? Oh, they said that when Kennedy was killed.
Oh my God. Simon Kennedy Ellis.
I know, named for I was named after his brother. Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, I did say named for one of them.
Exactly.
You were named for Robert.
I know, exactly, for Bobby Kennedy, exactly. And who was killed when my mother was pregnant with me, hence my middle name. And so yeah, that one didn't go down well, and so I why would it? And so I kind of learned to bite my tongue, I guess, because I wasn't experiencing what they were experiencing, as much as I felt the uncertainty and the uncertainty of it. And so it's not quite the same, but I have a slight feeling of, because the culture is not mine, and it's so clearly not mine, even though, because in New Zealand, the Queen, as much as she'd visited there a lot and was very popular, and it's so far off. Like Buckingham Palace and London and the UK it's slightly like a fantasy. It's much more fantastical than it can be here when you go past Buckingham Palace every day to work, for example, or something like that. I just want to think about that tweet by that person you mentioned. And so do you think that, because that would have happened regardless of her, you might say, the project of colonization was going on and had been going on for a long time. But do you think, are you able to answer whether you think the world has been better for her place in it?
I honestly don't think it's possible to say that about an individual.
I mean, she's also not an individual in the sense of she's representing,
Yeah, but you're not asking me about about the monarchy at large, because how far back do I go? Do I go past the Habsburgs? Do I go to the Tudors? Where do I cut off the tail of what would have been better? And it's. Do I go back to the time when there wasn't a single monarch, when there were multiple monarchs overseeing Albion? Where, it's so
the Danes. Go back to the Danes, I reckon.
But it's just so complicated, isn't it? To know, would it be better or would it be worse? I have no idea. Did they do horrifying things in their name?
Absolutely,
yeah, absolutely. Would some other form of government have done something as bad?
Possibly.
Yeah. I think so. So I think probably it's like, you can just point at decisions made effectively by people.
Yeah.
And I don't suppose it matters how they got there. They're people, and they are going to serve their own. No, there will be moments when they serve their own interests, and there will be moments when they serve the interests of a greater populace. And those will, if we're lucky, be evenly balanced, and if we're unlucky, they'll tip in one direction.
I think there's that, isn't it? That idea of the sense that, and I can't remember where I've happened across the idea, but of a benevolent dictator being effectively a much better sort of system of organizing a populace or governing, because you get consistency over time, for one thing, and the capacity to for people to grow with that person, and for changes to be made, which can be long-term changes which our kind of democratic system, or these various democratic systems, don't afford that at all. Like, there's no way that a government, regardless of their stripes, the colour of their jumpers, is able to make the kind of long-term changes that need to be made.
But I think the problem is, if we look at what makes somebody a benevolent dictatorship. I mean, if we look at the dictatorship that Salazar's dictatorship in Portugal, wow, that was a shit show.
That's right. I mean,
But if you go back and read some of the stuff about Salazar at the beginning of his career, he didn't look like such a bad guy. He becomes a bad guy, no doubt about it.
Clinging on.
He was coming in as a result of a problematic monarchy and all sorts of stuff that was that wasn't really working. And there is a sense that, so it's. I don't have the answer, do I? Evidently. What a shocker. Theatre academic doesn't know how to change the world.
Speaking of on Thursday, I was gifted by a friend, an old friend who lives in New Zealand. His wife and son were visiting the UK, and I'd arranged to meet with them, and they were going up to Birmingham, and we arranged to meet at a particular time. And then before I got there, I had a message from my friend's wife, who's also my friend, I guess you could say now, and they've got a 9-year-old there. And I was we were meeting at a place called Bear Grylls Adventure. Is that a place you've heard of?
No, but I know who Bear Grylls is, so I can imagine that you have to skin a rabbit just to get entrance.
Well, you go in. Anyway, so I walk. Before I got in, there's this massive structure outside. And I was looking at it going, oh, my God, if I have to do that, I will absolutely shit myself. It'll be like one of those installations that we talked about at the beginning of the show. And I will, as they say, literally shit myself. And it was, and then I hear this, Simon, and there they are at the top of this thing. And the 9-year-old's just churning through these sort of obstacles hung together by this harness. And anyway, so I go in, as you walk in, there's these cabinets on the side with tarantulas in them and scorpions. And I'm thinking, oh my God. Anyway, so I signed my waiver.